Hello everyone. Today's poem is Wei Feng Wanlan, a Wei Wind from the Book of Songs. This is a quite simple poem, but it was interpreted many ways in the history, and today I have a totally new interpretation or argument as well. So normally there's two interpretations about this poem. First, a girl complained to a junior boy that the boy doesn't know the girl very much and he didn't care about the girl, even though they might be lovers. The second interpretation is blaming to one of the lord in the Wei state, the Weihuangong, and it's blaming to the Lord of Wei, Weihuangong. He's too proud and he doesn't follow the code of conduct. So the writer, the poet, write this poem and blame his Lord. Well, actually, my new argument is generally identical to the second interpretation, a blaming poem by a senior officer to his lord, but I have a lot of new findings and the details is quite different than the second interpretation. So there are three observations by me that made this poem different. First thing first, the two paragraph structure. So in the portion of winds, the most majority of the wind poems are made of three paragraphs, so which is quite compliant to the philosophy of the Zhou people that there are three parts to consist of the world: the heaven, the people and creatures, and the earth on below. So it's three portions, as well as according to the time, we could still has three portions: the past, the current, and the future. Right. So the three paragraphs structure normally either indicates the universe or it's follow the timing sequence, right? So the three paragraphs was about different times or about different parts of the universe. So the two paragraphs points means something was missing, something of defects. So normally it's about the funerals, a dead. So this poem has another place indicated very clearly. This is about funeral, the容兮遂兮. So whenever you saw the character Sui, it always refers to the funeral, the tomb actually. The Sui is the tunnel, goes to the cabinet of the tomb. So whenever you saw this character in a pre-Qin dynasty literature, in 90% of the case, it will refer to the tomb. It's part of the tomb, but normally they just use this character to refer to the whole tomb, just like in the book 春秋左传. So the most famous Weihuangong, he made a great achievement for the king of Zhou, and then the king of Zhou asked, what kind of gift, what kind of the bonus you want from me? So the Weihuangong said, I 请岁. This is the character. He asked for 岁, for the tunnel of the tomb. So which means actually in that circumstance means he wants a much senior level structure, a much more big tomb for his own funerals, because the tomb is the home for the passed away people. So as a human, you have two lives in those times in the pre-Qin dynasty. For Chinese, the life you just live right now, right? And after the death, you lead another life under the ground in your tomb. So if you have a much bigger tomb, much good tomb, which means you can live a much better life in other world. So that's why even as a state lord, a very, very powerful state lord of Jin state, Weihuangong still want the tomb as the most highest level of prize for his great achievement, right? So here,容兮, you can see the character. The upper part means a cave under the ground, and the lower part means a space. So a cave underground, and it has a space to hold something. The character basically means that thing. So, and finally, today it means it can hold something. It has the capacity to hold something. So here it also refers to the tomb, right? The capacity, the place have the capacity to hold something refers to the tomb itself. And the sui refers to the tunnel. So the tunnel plus the cave together consist a completely tomb. So just imagine when the poet mentioned very detailed components of this tomb, 100%, he was on site. He was seeing the tomb itself. And when he write down this poem, he just record what he saw, what he see on site. And also the next sentence, 垂带悸兮, the belt hung down to the ground, it's shaken. Ji means something shaken at a very slightly movement, in a slightly movement. So it's shaking very slightly. And finally, it has the meaning of frightened deeply, but you try to hide up. And here it's part of frightened and part of by the sadness, because the poet was on the side of a funeral. So this is the second point. The third point is the last character of the first sentence of each paragraph. The first is 枝, Wanlan之枝. It means the branch of a tree. And in the second paragraph, 芄兰之叶, the leaves of the trees, of the grasses. So even today, as a Chinese, we know very clearly what does the branch and leaves mean if the two characters are together. 开枝散叶, which means a family tree grow up, it's expanding its family trees. The individual families are the branches and leaves of a big family tree. Okay, let's have a quick review of this poem. Basically, we have know all the details of this poem. Let's see how the whole story was about. 玩兰之枝，童子佩兮。 The kid, he wear a kind of decoration on himself, and he was the branch of the grass, so-called Wanlan. So here has two persons here. First thing first, the Wanlan is the grass was a metaphor to one of the person, one of the state lord of Wei state, and the Tongzi is a dedicated term to call the new lord before he ascend his throne. So when the old state lord passed away, and before the next New Year's Day comes, the new lord, de facto new lord, could not be called as a lord. He was so called as Tongzi. So wherever you saw Tongzi, you know he's a new lord. But the time is just between the old state lord and the next New Year's Day. So in this period, the new lord was so called as Tongzi, and he wear the decoration. That decoration might very likely is a symbol for the Lord. We have no idea what kind of the decoration article was, and normally we believe it was made of ivory, the tools of the elephant. So let's make the first sentence more clearly that the poet, very likely a senior officer, he said the kid, the young boy, ascend the throne, and he wear the decoration, which was so called as xi, and that's the symbol of a state lord. And he was the branch of the previous state lord. Why he was a branch? Because the main stem, normally the state lord was always come from the main stem of the family trees. It's always the big brother ascend the throne. And this new lord, he's not the big brother in this generation. He was the second, he was the third. And from the history, we know that first thing first, the Weihuangong, his name was so called as Wan, and he shared the same sound to this grass, Wanlan, right? So this is a metaphor, right? And Wanlan refers to that state lord with the name of Wan. They share the same sound, right? The second thing is the new state lord was a junior brother. He's not the big brother. So that's not doesn't follow the code of conduct. So that's something abnormal. And that's why the poet feels so uncomfortable, and he was even a bit frightened. He don't know what happened because everybody, because a new lord adoption, actually he became the new lord already, but this doesn't follow the code of conduct. It's a severely violation to the law. So what would happen, right? And the second pair of sentence,虽则佩觿，能不我知, it means even though the boy wear the decoration articles with him, or make it straight, even he ascend the throne, he became the new lord, but he doesn't know me at all. 能不我知, he doesn't, 能 is equally to the modern Chinese like 不能知我. So in the ancient classic Chinese, it's a little bit, sometimes it's a little bit similar like the Italian. The object will be placed in front of the verb. So here, the object is 我, the verb is 知, 知 is know. So in the modern Chinese, there's the way of thinking, the way of saying, or the sequence should be 不能知我. So why the poet think the new state lord doesn't know him? This is also a clear indication that either the new lord, state lord, is a fool. He's not capable to manage the whole state, and thus the experienced senior officers think he's not capable. The new lord is nothing. Or maybe the new lord is capable of doing something, but the two of them, the new state lord and the poet, the senior officer, they doesn't go very well. So it shows in the surface, it just shows that the new state lord didn't know the senior officer, the poet, at all. Didn't know his characters, didn't know what he wants, didn't know what's the way of doing things by the senior officer, by the poet. So if the state lord and his senior officers has the conflict, what would happen to the whole state? So there's a lot of things between the after the state lord Weihuangong, or the metaphor Wanlan. So two of his junior brothers has ascended to the throne. So there's a lot of conflicts, a lot of killings and whatsoever. So there's a huge internal conflicts within the Wei state in their government. So the third pair of sentence, 容兮遂兮，垂带悸兮, and this sentence pinpoint the place where the senior officer saw the new state lord at the site of the cemetery, at the tomb, at the funeral. 容, he saw the cabinet of the tomb, the coffin, the passed away state lord coffin was about to be buried, and the Sui is the tunnel goes to the tomb cabinet. So the senior officer saw at one side, he saw the old state lord was about to be buried under the ground, and on the other side, he observed the new state lord carefully, and the belt he wear shaking slightly. He was frightened, and he has a great horror inside, but he tried his best to avoid this horror, this frightened heart be seen by other peoples, but still the belt shaken. Also, the belt is an indication to a noble person, to a senior officers. So whenever you saw the belt, 带, it always referring the person who wears this belt is a noble person, is a senior officer. So the second paragraph, it basically repeats the first paragraph with a little bit differences. First thing first, we have explained Wanlan之叶, the leaves, right? So by the indication, the branch and the leaves, it's telling that the new state lord is a junior brother, and he was not from the main stem of the family trees. He's a branch. It's not good. And 童子佩韘, and so 韘is also has another term, 绝. So it's just like a rain on the sun. It was used to hold the string of a bow. So it's a very, very common articles the noble persons, the warriors wear. And finally, this article has the metaphor of determination. So 决 means determination. So determination is also a basic, fundamental virtue a state lord, a commander should have. So we can see some other stories on the history book that the state lord sent a 爵 or 社 to his senior officers, and which is an indication that you can make the decision on my behalf, on behalf of the state lord. And while the state lord was going out of the town to have a very dangerous mission. So if the state lord passed away in this mission, the person who had the article of 社 of 节 from the state lord, he should make the final decision to decide what to do for the whole state. So that's one of the story happened in the Wei state as well. So this is too long story. I won't go to the details, but you know the article or the metaphor of this article, what it's about. So it's all compliance. The kid, the boy, ascend the throne, and he was on charge of the whole state. He should making all the decisions, the big decisions for everybody in the state, right? So the next sentence, 虽则佩韘，则能不我甲. So even though the boy wear this article, wear this ring of determination, but he won't do any good to me. So in the modern sequence, the 不能我甲 should read as 能不我甲 should read as 不能我加. Well, sorry, 不能加我. So 加 is the verb, is a long word of 加, so which means to enhance, to do some good to others. So that's also another fundamental duties of a lord. As a lord, the fundamental duty is to make good for all your citizens, for all your officers. If you cannot do that, you are incompetent. You are not good. You are not qualified. Okay, the last sentence, 容兮遂兮, 垂带悸兮. So it's repeating. Wow, I'm seeing the old state lord. He was about to bury it in this cabinet through this tunnel. My belt shaking. Okay, that's for today. A very touching and very vivid poem about a real history story. And I believe it was about Weixuangong, the junior brothers of Weihuangong, and Wanlan refers to Weihuangong, and Tongzi, the boy, refers to Weixuangong, and the 童子 refers it's a boy, it's a young boy, but he could be some 15 to 20s as well. So very likely when the Weixuangong ascend the throne, which was described in this poem, I believe he was around some 20s or almost 20s. Okay, that's for today. Bye bye.